Hello and good evening. Please do let me know if I'm audible and if I'm visible. Hello. Good evening, guys. Am I audible and am I visible? Good evening, Harsha. Good evening. Good evening, guys. So, today I am a little under the weather. So, please bear up with me for that. I have a severe cold today. Good evening, guys. Good evening. So, today we are going to do the second part of Soga. I hope your studies are going well. Good evening, guys. Good evening. Good evening, Harsha. Good evening, Pallavi, Chaitra, Omkar, CAKS. I'm sorry, I don't know what is your name. So let's start today. Today's session. So I am a little under the weather today, have a severe cold, so please bear up with that. So did not want to miss session, so just doing it. Mr. Samuel agreed to purchase 100 bales of cotton from Mr. Varun out of his large stock and sent his men to take delivery of the goods. They could pack only 60 bales. Mr. Samuel agreed to purchase 100 bales from Varun out of his large stock. That means what? These are what? Unascertained goods, right? These are what? Unascertained goods. And sent his men to take delivery of the goods. They could pack only 60 bales. Who had packed? In the presence of Samuel's men, the packing was done. That means, can I say for these 60 bales, ownership has been transferred to the buyer, correct? Later on, there was an accidental fire and the entire stock was destroyed, including the 60 bales that were already packed. Just 1 second, guys. Referring to the provisions of the Sale of Goods Act, explain as to who shall bear the loss and to what extent. Here, since ownership of 60 bales had already passed, the risk will be borne by the buyer. For the rest of the goods, the loss will be borne by seller Varun. Now, what provisions we have to write? It is about risk, that is loss. So we have to write about risk or loss. Second, since we are saying 60 ownership is transferred to the buyer and these are unascertained goods. So we have to write about transfer of ownership in case of unascertained goods. So these are the provisions that I have to write here. So as per the provisions of Sale of Goods Act 1930, unless otherwise agreed. That means if there is no agreement, risk passes with ownership, whether delivery is made or not. Till the time seller is owner, risk is with the seller. Right? Just 1 second, guys. Sorry. Till the time the seller is the owner, risk is with the seller. But once the ownership is transferred to the buyer, risk passes on to the buyer. Correct? So this is about risk. Now we have to talk about unascertained goods. In case of unascertained goods, when goods are sold by description, the ownership of such goods are transferred when they are ascertained and unconditionally appropriated. Right? As per the description, when the goods are set aside, they are ascertained. Appropriation is done by the seller with the consent of buyer and or by the buyer with the consent of the seller. This is it. This is your provision. Now, explain who shall bear the loss and to what extent. Therefore, Mr. Samuel shall bear the loss of 60 bales as the ownership has been transferred to him. For the rest of the goods, risk shall be borne by the seller. Right? We are done with this. Next one. Okay, this was September 24 question. Because it is September 24 question, I want you to give me the answer rather than me giving you the answer. So please give me the answer to this question, guys. Give me the answer, guys. Good evening, Netravati. Are you attending the online live lectures today only? I mean, the live writing sessions, the first session you're attending today only? Raj says Vishal or Rahul. Omkar says Mangesh. Okay. Okay. Soumya says Mangesh. And what about the others, those who are attending the lecture? Why, I mean, the session, why are you not answering, guys? It's better to be wrong here than to be wrong in the exams, correct or not? Let's see. Ashoka trader, Meghna says Rahul. Okay. Ashoka trader delivered a camera to Mangesh on sale on approval. Mangesh delivered the camera to Rahul on sale on approval first. So this is very evident that they are talking about the provision here is basically about what? Sale on approval, correct or not? Okay. The moment Mangesh gave it to Rahul, as between Ashok and Mangesh, it is what? Sale. He gave it to Rahul on terms of sale on cash only or return. So here he has given it for cash only. Right? He has given it for cash only. That means what? This is sale on approval on cash basis. So I have to write about that also. Correct? So between him, it was only on cash basis. Afterwards, Rahul delivered it to Vishal on sale or return basis without paying cash to Mangesh. Now, when it is sale on approval on cash basis, ownership is transferred only when the cash is paid. Since Rahul has not paid the cash to Mangesh, he is not the owner of the goods, and so Mangesh is still the owner of the goods. As far as Vishal is concerned, he has not even accepted the goods as yet. Right? So who's the owner of the goods? Mangesh. So who is liable? Mangesh. Those who said Rahul or Vishal, did you understand why it is Mangesh and not Rahul and Vishal? As per the provisions of Sale of Goods Act 1930, when the sale is made on approval basis, the sale takes place in any of the following cases. First, when the buyer gives his approval. If you remember in class we have always done sale on return and separately sale on cash basis. Gives his approval, the seller, about his willingness to purchase the goods. Second, where the buyer does not return the goods back within the time specified, or if no time is specified within a reasonable time. Third, where the buyer does any act which is inconsistent with ownership. However, when the sale is made on cash basis, the ownership is transferred only when the cash is paid, right? So this is the provision. This is the provision. Now, when you write here the second paragraph, I want to tell you, please explain each of the situation. I'll just give you an example. For example, since Vishal has not accepted the goods, he is not the owner of the goods. He had taken due care, so he is not liable for the loss. And also, I forgot to mention here, please add one line on the risk factor also. That risk will be borne by the owner, irrespective of who has the possession. Don't forget that. Rahul. As regards Rahul, as sale on approval was on cash basis, the act of forwarding the goods to Vishal does not amount to sale. He shall get the ownership of the goods only when he pays the price. Since Mangesh delivered the goods to Rahul, he has done an act which is consistent with what? Ownership. Therefore, Mangesh is liable to pay the price to Ashok as he is the owner. Your answer has to be so clear that if the examiner has never read law, he still reads your answer, he understands everything. Even if the examiner has never read the law, he should still be very clear. The moment he reads your answer, he knows what you have written, he knows the law. Chalo, moving on to the next question. Let's see how many of you can identify the provision for this question. I want you to identify, I don't want the answer. I want you to identify the provision for this question, guys. So I want you to read this answer and identify the provision. Those who had written Vishal or Rahul, did you understand why your answer is wrong? Tell me the answer to this. I want you to identify the provision of this, please. Some of you are saying, Soumya, I understand the person who buys in good faith gets a good title. But that is not the question here. The question here, he gets a good title. I understand. We all understand. But what provision will you write? That is the question. Here, what provision will you write? That is the question here, no? So the question is, what provision will you write here? Sorry. Okay. Okay, so let's read the question. A went to B's shop and selected some jewelry. He falsely represented himself to be a man of credit and thereby persuaded B to take payment. He further requested him to hand over the ring immediately. When the seller presented the check for payment, the check was found to be dishonored. This is what? Fraud. And in case of fraud, the contract is voidable. Someone had written sale by a person in possession after sale. That happens when I have sold you the goods, but I still have the goods and I resell them to another buyer. But here nothing like this is happening, no? Before, and here the buyer is selling. Sale by a person in possession after sale happens. The seller is only selling it to a new buyer. Here the buyer is selling it to another buyer. So that's a normal sale. He sold the ring. Before B could avoid the contract on the grounds of fraud, by A, he had sold the ring to C. So this is what? Sale by a person in possession under a voidable contract. So only person who has the ownership of the goods can transfer the ownership to a new buyer. However, there are certain exceptions to this rule where a person has the possession of the goods under a voidable contract and before the contract is cancelled sells it to a purchaser who acts in good faith. Such sale is valid, right? So, does if the sale made by the non-owner is valid or not as per the provisions of the Indian Sale of Goods Act. Therefore, the sale made by A to C is a valid. Clear? It was an easy question. Can we go forward? Against B's tender, R agrees to sell and deliver 1000 kgs of tomatoes at rupees 100 per kg, which shall be delivered on 15th July. Due to the rise of prices of tomatoes in the market, R delivered only 700 kgs of tomatoes on 15th July and agrees to deliver the balance quantity in the next month. B accepted 700 kgs. So how many were supposed to be delivered? 1000. He delivered how many? 700. Later, R failed to deliver the balance quantity and so B refused to pay the price of 700 to R. As he had failed to fulfill the tender conditions stipulated in the contract of sale. Can B refuse to pay R as per the provisions of sale? Can he refuse to pay R? No. Guys, I'm really not very well, so I'll just not ask too many questions. I'll just tell you what the points are. Can we say this question relates to delivery of goods of wrong quantity, correct or not? Yes, so we have to write that provision only. When the seller delivers to the buyer a quantity less than that he had contracted for, the buyer may either reject the goods or accept the goods. If the buyer accepts the goods, he must pay for the goods accepted at the contract rate. So tell me, can be refused to pay? Therefore, B cannot refuse to pay R for the 700 kgs he has accepted, right? Chalo, this answer you give me. Yes. Meghna, it is part delivery also. You can add that if you want. But yes, wrong quantity you have to add, okay? Please give the answer to this one a little quickly, please. Huh? A, who is an agent of a buyer, has obtained the goods from the railway authorities. A is the agent of the buyer. Has unloaded the goods on his. In the meantime, the railway authorities received a notice from B, the seller, for stopping the goods in transit as the buyer has become insolvent. Decide whether the railway authorities can stop the goods in transit. So obviously we have to write about stoppage in transit, right? The provision relates to what? Stoppage in transit, right? Okay. Okay. So, as per the provisions of the Sale of Goods Act 1930, when the seller has sent the goods to the carrier for delivery to the buyer and becomes unpaid, he can stop the goods in transit and not deliver them to the buyer. Not deliver them to the buyer. Rights of stoppage can be exercised when both the parties do not have the possession of the goods, correct? Then the goods are with the carrier in transit. The seller has become unpaid due to buyer's insolvency, correct? However, stoppage comes to an end when the goods reach the buyer. Delivery of the goods. Wow, this was next level. Delivery of the goods to the buyer's agent is delivery of the goods to the buyer. Correct? So, decide whether railway authorities can stop the goods in transit. Can they stop? No. Therefore, railway authorities cannot stop the goods as the goods are with the buyer's agent. delivery of goods to buyer's agent is delivery to buyer. And once goods reach buyer, stoppage comes to an end. Ma'am, why are you writing so much in the conclusion? The reason being, if let's say examiner directly goes to the conclusion and reads my conclusion, he will, by reading this also you can understand, he can understand what I have written and he can, be sure about the answer. Okay, I want you to read this and quickly give me the answer, guys. In this question, tell me what provisions will come in our answer. I want you to tell me which all provisions will come for this question. Okay. Okay. I have always told you your question only gives you the answer. So try and identify the question, you will get the answer. So PCC hotels in Bombay decided to sell their furniture by auction sale. Okay, for this purpose, they appointed R&N Associates as auctioneer. They invited top 10 renowned architects in Bombay for bidding. A right to bid was not notified by them. So this is my first provision, right to bid. Furniture were put up in lots. This is my second provision. It was decided that for every lot of furniture, there would be a reserve price. This is also my provision. On 25th, auction sale was started at 10 a.m. in the lawn of PTC Hotel, Bombay. For a special lot of furniture, three parties came for bidding. And these were the bids. The sale was completed in favor of Mr. Neil by fall of hammer. Mr. Dave's bid was rejected. Was it valid? No, it is not valid because the sale is made to the highest bidder. So that is my next provision that you have to write. So these are the provisions that my answer should have. One thing is very clear. These are the provisions that my answer should have. So as per the provisions of, say, an auction sale is an invitation to offer, inviting the public to bid for the goods. When sale is in case of auction sale, the following conditions must be fulfilled. Okay. First, the sale is made to the highest bidder. Goods may be put up in lots, and each lot shall be a separate contract. The next one, sale may be notified to a reserve price, and in such a case the auctioneer is not bound to sell the goods at below the reserve price. The sale may be reserved by or on behalf of the seller. When the sale is reserved, seller or his agent on his behalf may bid at the auction. If the sale is not reserved and the seller or anyone on his behalf bids, such sale shall be voidable at the buyer's option. If the seller bids without reserving the rights, the sale shall not be completed in favor of the seller. Right? So now coming to the question, sale was completed here in favor of Neil, and Dev's bid was rejected on the grounds that right to bid was reserved. Since right to bid was not reserved, sale will be made to the highest bidder. So Mr. Dev's bid is what? Valid. So rejection of his bid is not valid. Sale was completed in favor of Mr. Dheer instead of Madhu. Madhu was bidding on behalf of the seller and the right to bid was not reserved. So this bid shall not be considered. So obviously Mr. Dheer's bid should be considered. Mr. Madhu's should not be considered. This is valid. Therefore, the sale in favor of Mr. Neil is not valid as the seller has not, sorry, is not valid as the right to bid was not reserved. Mr. Dev, being the highest bidder, his bid should be taken. Therefore, rejection of his bid is not valid. Second case, rejection of bid of Mr. Madhu is valid as the seller has not reserved the right to bid. Mr. Madhu, who was the representative of the seller, his bid shall not be taken. I hope it's clear. Guys, there are only this many questions that I had scheduled for today. And as I already told you, I'm under the weather. Just wanted to do the session. So we'll end it here. Which chapter you want next? Let me know. We have negotiable and we have contract. Tomorrow is Sunday, won't be doing tomorrow. Monday I'm flying back, so I won't be doing any classes on Monday. Tuesday we'll have next session. So which chapter you want for Tuesday? Just let me know. So we'll arrange a session for that chapter only. Okay? So just let me know that, and with this, we are done with this. We are done with the Sale of Goods Act also. Okay, then we'll do negotiable. Okay, for the next session, I'll keep negotiable and then we will do sale contract act. Okay. Chalo, bye guys. I'll see you on Tuesday. Till then, keep studying. Bye bye. Bye bye.